So numbers, there are two ways that numbers are represented in Python, which is integers and floats. Integers. Integers are a type of object in Python that represents what integers mean in the English language, which is essentially any number that is a real number and does not have decimal points. So some examples include 1, 1000, 0, -3. And so these types of ways of storing it are like the most efficient. They include like the least number of storage space. And yeah, integers are a very simple definition of what they mean. So variables are essentially storage containers, and they are essentially we define variables using a name, and there's special conventions, like I guess you could say like the English language for naming variables, but variables essentially can store what they want, whatever type of data they want, but they can store integers as well. So variables have a name and an object value they hold. So integer variables hold integer values. So what names can we give variables? Now, it's understandable that people do not get this right first, and modern programming applications will let you know when you have named a variable wrong, right? Like the name does not work. And let's go over some of those restrictions. So the name must start with a letter or an underscore symbol, and the rest of the name can only consist of letters, numbers, and the underscore symbol. So there cannot be any spaces in a name. Otherwise, the code will error out. So the way you spell essentially spaces is you use an underscore dash. Some examples of variable names are X, Cat, ZZ, Tin Man 48, Ball Gaming. These are some fun names, but a rule of thumb, a general rule that programmers usually follow is to name variables not randomly, but based on what they're storing. So you can very easily remember what that variable is storing, and it helps you and other people understand your code better. So variable names are case sensitive for pretty much all programming languages. So a lowercase dog and an uppercase dog would be two different variable names. So outputting variable values. For Python, there are two ways to output variable values. You can use something that is known as the print command, kind of like when a printer prints out a paper, you do the same thing. You type print, and then you put the variable name inside parentheses. So for example, Tin Man 48. And it will essentially print whatever is inside that variable, however which way it can represent it to the user. So if, for example, we say Tin Man 48 equals 8 or something like that. So we store the value, the integer 8 inside Tin Man 48, and we print out Tin Man 48. Then the user would be displayed the number 8. So that's just a very basic example. Or Python is actually a very good programming language in the sense that it's very friendly. It's very simple to be able to understand and use. So you can actually just put the variable's name on its own, and the computer will automatically understand, oh, this person is trying to print out their variable. So it'll print out the variable's value. So the next type of number is float, and a float is a decimal, so it can cover all sorts of decimal points. Obviously, more storage space since many more numbers are usually used with decimal points, and the rules for naming variables and outputting variables are the same for every type of variable, including float. And we'll introduce you to other data types later, such as strings and other things that also will follow that same rule for naming variables.
Is is there a good free website for us to practice this stuff, Ashwin?
Yeah, there actually is. I will send that at the end.
Okay, thank you. What is the purpose of Python, Ashwin? Why
Um,
is it good to know?
Python is a coding language, and that relates to computer science, which is the most growing job in the world right now. It's especially useful to be relevant in modern times. And computer science jobs are very high paying, they're very good. And yeah, if you know a coding language, it will very much help you for a computer science job. And Python is one of the easiest programming languages, so that this will give you a nice baseline, a good base to start from where you can build on harder and harder programming languages with more and more complicated things. And that will help you in the computer science sector, which is obviously the hot sector right now. It's the most growing sector, especially with AI and things like that. Technology defines our modern time, and so does computer science, along with coding languages. Let's move on. Arithmetics and assignment operators. So, arithmetic operators in Python are very much similar to operators that you use in mathematics, for example. So I am pretty confident that all of you are familiar with the arithmetic operators since they're the same in math. This is plus. Oh, sorry. This is the plus symbol. This is the minus symbol. Those are self-explanatory. This is actually the multiplication symbol in Python. It's not like an X that you would see. Um, that is the asterisk symbol on your computer keyboard. Parentheses are, for example, essentially just multiplication, and you have division, and then you have modulus, which is essentially when you do division, simple division, you get a remainder. This will allow you to calculate that remainder. So, for example, if you do 65 divided by 5, that is 13, but there is no remainder for that. So this would be equivalent to 0. If you were to do 65 divided by 4, for example, though, 64 divided by 4 is 16, but you still have a remainder of 1. So in the code, this would be equivalent to 1. So it essentially calculates the remainder based on a simple division. And this is the exponent symbol. So yeah, we can use these operators in Python between two numbers, and it will output that example. And you can use it, for example, in the print statement that we learned just a couple minutes ago to output what that would be. So you can do simple math in code itself. So what is the difference between that? So I'll cover the 1/ and 2/. You can cover those in that slide. So both operators perform division, but they actually perform it in different ways. So 5 divided by 4 will be equivalent to 1.25. Now this obviously is a decimal number. So for example, if you were to say that would be have to store it in the float data type that we learned earlier, which is for decimal numbers. So we would say float and then Tin Man 48 is equivalent to 5 divided by 4. Just highlight that for everyone to see. So your data type, your variable name, and then that equivalent stat. So you can use that to essentially store that value. And that's how we use it, but we'll learn about that later. And then this essentially rounds it, right? So double slashes does floor division, which is basically it will do it without the remainder. It will round it to the nearest number. So 9 divided by 8, for example, the nearest number is 1 for that. And yeah, so let's move on. So this symbol is the percent symbol. It's a symbol that we don't particularly use in math all that often. It's the percent symbol for other things, but in our case, it's something that is known as modulus, and it outputs the remainder of division. Remember, I was explaining that earlier. So 7 modulus 4 is 3, because 7 divided by 4, you get 1 with a remainder of 3. 4 divided by 7 is 0, and 13 divided by 4 is 3 with the remainder of 1. So the answer would be 1 in this case. Now, what is the double multiplication symbol? Since there is no symbol for exponents, we essentially put 2 of these symbols together, and the code will read that as an exponent symbol. So 5 to the power of 0 is 1, 6 to the power of 1 is 6, obviously, and so on and so forth. Now, assignment operators. So, in general, the most common assignment operator you're going to use is the equal symbol, 1 equals. So, it is used to set the value of a variable. So let's say we have the variable tinman48. So we say that is equivalent to 4, right? Since Python is a very beginner-friendly language, the code will read 4 and it'll automatically understand that tinman48 needs to be a variable with the integer data type, since there are no decimal points in 4, since 4 is an integer. So we essentially assign tinman48 to the value 4, and it copies that and keeps it within its storage to be used later. So obviously we have plus equals, minus equals, multiplication equals, slash equals, and then double slash equals, modulus equals, and exponent equals. So on the left side of an assignment operator must be a numerical variable. On the right side, there must be a number. So these are much more confusing, but essentially what they do is they are a more simple way of writing something. So they're essentially, what do you call it, compressed, right? So plus equals, for example, is actually, if we have our variable tinman48, tinman48 equals tinman48 plus 5. So now this may be confusing, right? Why would you use the variable again? Wouldn't that create an error? No. When we call the variable, we actually get the variable's data, the original data before it's updated. So let's say we made tinman48 equivalent to 4, just the line before. And sorry, I'm used to typing in another programming language, so I include the semicolon. Do not include the semicolon, it's not really needed. So tinman48 equals 4. So over here, we redefine tinman48 and the value it represents. So we say tinman48 equals tinman48 plus 5. Now, here's the thing. We defined tinman48 is equivalent to 4, the line before. So the code remembers it as, okay, tinman48 is equivalent to 4. So what it will do is that actually means that tinman48 over here is equivalent to 4, which means when we redefine it, it will be equivalent to 9 and no errors will show up. So it's essentially a more lazy way of writing the code, but it's a more efficient way, and it uses the variable itself. So minus equals does the same thing, right? I'll use a very basic variable name so I don't have to write it out. X equals x minus something, right? If you say x minus equals 5, that is actually equivalent to x equals x minus 5. And the same thing goes for this one, right? If we have that, then it'll be equivalent to x equals x times 5, and so on and so forth. And that actually applies to all of them. So it's a more compressed way of writing it. If it feels too complicated, you don't need to write it like that. It's just something that programmers who are more proficient use it for, so they don't have to write as much. So yeah, and obviously this is what each assignment operator does. The rest of the operators follow the same pattern. So I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for attending. And yeah, see you all next week.